The world watched in stunned silence as warplanes screamed over Caracas. Dawn light cut through smoke above the city, and phones around the globe lit up with breaking news alerts. A great power spoke next, not with weapons but with words. What exactly did China say when the United States struck Venezuela? In early January 2026, the United States launched a major military operation inside Venezuela. Airstrikes were reported in and around the capital, and multiple outlets said President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were taken into custody by U.S. forces. The event unfolded rapidly and caught many governments off guard. Within hours, reactions began to arrive from capitals around the world. This story matters because Venezuela is not isolated. It sits at the center of global energy markets and international politics. China is one of Venezuela's closest partners and its largest oil customer. When the U.S. acted, Beijing's response was watched carefully, not only for what it said, but for what it might signal next. The timeline moved fast. On January 3, 2026, reports emerged of U.S. air and ground operations inside Venezuela. News agencies confirmed explosions, troop movements, and arrests linked to the Venezuelan leadership. Source: Reuters, January 2026. Almost immediately, attention turned to China. Just days before the attack, a Chinese delegation had met President Maduro in Caracas. The meeting focused on cooperation and long-term partnership, according to officials familiar with the visit. Source: Washington Post, January 2026. When news of the U.S. strike broke, that meeting took on new meaning. Within hours, China's foreign ministry released a formal statement. The spokesperson said China was deeply shocked by the U.S. military action. The statement added that the strike seriously violates the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter and infringes on Venezuela's sovereignty. Source: LiveMint, January 2026. Chinese officials did not stop there. In follow-up remarks, Beijing urged the United States to stop actions that could escalate tensions. It called on Washington to respect international law and avoid destabilizing Latin America and the Caribbean. Source: Anadolu Agency, January 2026. Visual, 3D map fly-through with timestamps? As coverage expanded, more details were verified. China did not announce any military response. Instead, it focused on diplomacy, law, and global stability. State media echoed the government line, framing the attack as an example of unilateral force that could set a dangerous precedent. Source: China State Media Summaries, January 2026. Evidence of China's concern also appeared in economic reporting. Analysts noted that Venezuela supplies a large share of China's imported crude oil. Any prolonged instability could disrupt shipments and affect Chinese energy security. Source: Reuters, January 2026. Visual: evidence card with label plus date. Other governments reacted as well, but China's voice stood out due to its status as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Commentators observed that Beijing was positioning itself as a defender of sovereignty rather than a direct party to the conflict. Source: Washington Post, January 2026. Still, not everyone interpreted China's reaction the same way. Some analysts argued the language was strong but carefully measured. They noted that China avoided direct accusations of war crimes and did not call for sanctions or retaliation. This restraint suggested Beijing wanted to criticize the action without closing doors to dialogue. Infocard: what we know versus unconfirmed. There are also gaps in what is known. China has not publicly detailed any behind-the-scenes talks with Washington. It has not clarified whether it will push for an emergency UN resolution or limit its response to public statements. These uncertainties remain part of the story. Content note: discussion of conflict and political instability. For people inside Venezuela, the impact was immediate and deeply human. Families reported fear and confusion as explosions echoed nearby. Many stayed indoors, following radio and phone updates, unsure of what would come next. The shock extended beyond politics into daily life. In China, the event was followed closely online. Some citizens expressed concern about global stability and energy prices. Others focused on the principle of national sovereignty, a theme often emphasized in Chinese political culture. While far away, the crisis still felt personal to many. To understand why China reacted this way, it helps to think of international law as a shared rulebook. When one powerful country breaks the rules, others worry the game itself could collapse. China's statements repeatedly return to this idea, stressing order over force. Geopolitically, the situation resembles a fault line under pressure. One sudden move can send shockwaves far beyond its origin. For China, responding firmly but calmly allows it to signal values without stepping into open confrontation. Sidebar. Term in one line plain English. So far, what we know is clear. China condemned the U.S. attack as a violation of international law and sovereignty. Source: Live Mint, January 2026. We know China has deep economic ties to Venezuela. Source: Reuters, January 2026. What we do not yet know is how this stance will translate into action. Looking ahead, several possible. The most likely is continued diplomatic pressure through international forums, especially the United Nations. Confidence in this outcome is high. Another possibility is a gradual adjustment in China's energy strategy if Venezuelan supplies become unreliable. This outcome has medium confidence. A direct military or strategic clash between China and the United States over Venezuela remains unlikely, with low confidence. Question: what would you notice first? In moments like this, global politics often turn not on explosions, but on sentences spoken at podiums. China's reaction reveals how major powers choose words carefully when the stakes are high. If you want to explore how international law shapes modern conflicts, watch our next video, How the United Nations Responds When War Breaks Out. All information here comes from publicly available reporting, and details may change as new facts emerge.